My name is Doris Redic. The age is 89, and today's date is September the 27th. And the location, as of now, I am downtown at the what is it?
Cultural Center.
Cultural Center,
Hmm.
and the relationship to my partner is my lovely, sweet, grateful, appreciative daughter. One daughter, and five sons will come later, but I'm grateful.
Hey, I'm that wonderful, beautiful daughter, Claudette Reddick.
Go ahead, girl.
My age is something I have a hard time discussing publicly, but I'm 67 now, and it's September 28th, a beautiful day in Chicago, Illinois. And it's my mom whose story I have come today to help record. To record some of that, the story corpse. So I'm going to be asking you some questions today. I hope that will be heard by other family members in the world since we're going to be housed at the Library of Congress. So our story is big, man. They're going to have us there. So let's get going. You ready?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
going to start out because you're really big on love and people. Who was the most important person in your life?
The most important person in my life that really pushed me, loved me, is my grandmother, Emma.
What's her name?
Emma. Emma
Em-
Payne.
Emma Payne.
Hmm.
Okay.
My mother wasn't there because she was a single mother and she worked away from home and would come home every week to see about my brother and I. And always when she came home, she would bring us something, but she would bring me clothes because the why she said she would bring me clothes, beautiful dresses and things, she always wanted me to look like a girl and not like a boy. So I guess that's where I got that from, is clothes from my mother because she brought the clothes and the food, and I was with a lovely family. My grandmother and my grandfather was just super good to me and the rest of us grandchildren.
Can you share a particular lesson your grandmama Emma taught you, something you still to this day hold true to?
Love and forgive. She called me sister, and she would say, "Sister, whatever you do, give love." And sometime it may seem like you're not getting it back, but don't you stop and go in their lane. And this is the words that I say now to people. Don't go in another person's lane because you're not going to be happy. Find a way to get in your own lane and find your own happiness. And I still believe that today. I have been surrounded with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. They say, "How come you so sweet, so quiet?" I said, "Well, my grandmother taught me don't get in other people's business." And I appreciate that today because it's not really mine.
You know, I chuckle.
I know. Okay.
Having been a hairdresser, a cosmetologist, and the place where you get all the information, you didn't have to do anything but sit and listen and
And
make
I
them
still do
beautiful.
that today.
And you
Is
were in their
listen.
lives,
That's
yeah.
right. I was in their lives trying to beautify them, and when they would come in with their questions and sometimes their meanness, because you could feel it, I would say, "Don't go there. That's not a place for your happiness." And I believe that to the day. It's not a place to go in anybody else's lane because you think they hurt your feeling, but that was only your impression of hurt. But God loved you so well, He brought you through it. I
Who,
guess, I
who,
hope.
who was the biggest influence of that kind of thinking? Is this just your grandma? Did you encounter others over
No,
time
no,
who?
no, no. My grandmother's on both sides,
Oh,
on my daddy's side and my mother's side.
what's your dad's mother's name?
Dad's mother's name was Angeline Carter.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and she would come and get me and take me home with her. I didn't know anything about my father, but his mother and his sisters was always my love. And that's how I grew up to love her, and she could tell jokes. I think now, since I've gotten older, I'll say younger, I pick up some of her jokes and I can make you laugh. And it's one thing my grandmother Payne used to say: if you can't make a person laugh, don't make them cry. And what
Mm.
she meant about that, the words, your attitude, the way that you would put yourself out there. If you can't put yourself out there in love, don't put yourself out
Don't
there.
go, huh?
Don't go.
That's probably why I'm aloof sometimes.
Right.
Yes.
And do you remember a time when your family or your grandma made you laugh?
Oh, sure.
Can you tell that to your
Oh,
listeners?
sure. My grandmother on my daddy's side, Angeline Carter,
Hmm.
she told a lot of jokes. And then she would come in the house and call my mother and say, "Where is that girl?" And Mama said, "She in there." "What is she doing?" Mama say, "I don't think she's doing too much." "Why?" "Well, I come to see what she look like." And that was her thing. She wanted to come in and see what I look like.
Okay.
And then she would want me to go home with her. And going home with her was going home with one of my aunts, Aunt Sarah.
Oh yeah.
On my daddy's side, she was really there for me. And on my mother's side, all of the aunts and the uncles were on my side. The only thing about it, I didn't like it because I was the first oldest girl, and I couldn't go nowhere but sit on the porch and do whatever Mama was doing, like peas, hulls, or whatever we were doing there. That was care, but I couldn't go anywhere.
Mm. But
She,
you were the only girl, though, right?
at
In
that
the mix.
time,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds like you had a lot to do, especially as I took visits later on in the summer going south. And I thought all the women, that's all they did was sat and prepared food. They shelled beans and, to me, spent all day and night working on those kind of things and then cooking.
Hmm.
So I was like, not for me. But that was your regular growing up life. You'd sit on
Right.
that step, and
Yeah.
pretty much that was your activity.
Right.
Okay.
And go to the field sometime, but I couldn't stand the heat. And I remember once asking my grandmother to let me go to the field where they was chopping cotton and
These were your grandparents'
grandparents.
farm.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Not their farm. They was working for Uncle Tom at
Oh,
that time. And we
okay. They were
was on
sharecropping, huh?
sharecropping, yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
I didn't know that.
But if it was hot, Mama said, "You not going out there." And sometime I would try to slip out there just to get away from home to be with my cousins, because I had a lot of cousins.
Hmm.
On my mama's side, she had more boys than she had girls. And I wanted to get out. Mm,
So you consider going to the hot field with them,
no, going to the barn when they bring the corn, to
huh?
put the corn in the shed.
Oh.
Like a
Mm.
what did they call it? Anyway, it's, we put the corn. They go gather the corn, and then they bring it back and put it in this barn. And I asked my mom, my grandmother, "Can I go to the barn?" And she said, "Yes, but don't let your granddaddy catch you out there." And I was just so excited over being able to go to the barn with my cousin boys. And we heard the wagon, and they said, "Here come Papa." That was our grandfather. And I jumped out of the window trying to get to the house so he wouldn't see that I had been to the barn. And as I got to the barn, I looked, I had hurt my leg. And my grandfather was very, very strict on going to church. You had to go to church. And he asked my grandmother, he said, "Where's Miss Lou?" My middle name, they called me
Well,
Lou.
another name you had, you were Sister Ann who?
Oh, yeah, I was everything.
Miss Lu. What is your whole name, Ma?
My whole name is Doris Louise Carter. But I changed it
Uh-huh.
from the Louise to the Love. The Louise was after my Aunt Mattie,
Hmm.
but I wanted my name to be Doris Love Carter. Until this day, it's still Doris Love.
Yeah, people do recognize you by Doris Love.
Yes.
You're a busy woman. Well, let me ask. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to hear the rest of the story. You said you hurt your leg, and your grandpa said Did he know that you had been to the barn? Did he catch you?
No, he did not. My grandmother had me hid in the house, and she looked at my leg and she says, she called me sister at that time. She said, "Sister, you can't go out in the sun." So that Sunday morning, my grandfather asked, "Where is Miss Lou?" And Mama said, "She's in there." Well, I haven't seen her all this week. I've heard her mouth, but I have not seen her. And Mama said, "Well, she'll be out." So he went on to church. He came back. He heard my mouth all that week talking, but he didn't get a chance to see me. So that Sunday morning, he says, "Look, where is Miss Lou? I'm going to find out where she is before I go to church." And my grandmother said, "Come on out so your granddaddy can see you before he go to church." And he said, "What is wrong with you?" I said, "I hurt my leg." And he said, "Your leg? And nobody knows about it?" I said, "Big Mama know it." Then he started doing his talk. And he said, "Miss Lou, let me see that leg." And I showed him my leg. He said, "Well, why haven't you told me about her leg?" She said, "Well, we was working on it." So he said, "Well, tomorrow we going to the doctor." So he carried me to the doctor that Monday morning after he went to church. And the doctor looked at me. He says, "If you'd have stayed away 2 more days, we would have had to take her leg off because it's affected so bad." So I was treated for about a month, and the leg got okay. So I'm still wearing the scars at 89 right now in my leg from jumping out of the barn, trying to get away so my granddaddy didn't know that I was out there.
Oh yeah, because that was you were disobeying then, huh?
Oh, yes.
Ooh, girl, what were the results of disobedience at that time? What
Well, at
happened?
that time, he didn't do anything but fuss.
Uh-huh.
He could really rap now
Yeah.
in his
Fussing.
way of talking or fussing.
Mm-hmm.
But he did take me to the doctor, and the doctor told him if I'd have stayed away 2 more days, the leg would have been removed. Not even operated on, but they would have to take the leg off.
Yeah. Well, you sound like you had a lot of really company in life. You have been in the mix even as an only girl or for a long time, the only female around. But was there ever a time when you really felt alone?
Most of the time.
Really?
Yes, because my big mama would not let me leave her and go out to play. I had to be where she was, and I was doing whatever she had to do in the kitchen, outside doing that. She said, "You're not going out there with all those boys." And all of my aunts had more boys than they had girls. And they could go out and play. Why couldn't I? But Big Mama said no.
Well, you know what? I'm hearing this story and it sounds so much like my story. I'm an only girl. Out of your
Yes.
6 children, I had these 5 brothers, and early on I could play with them, but after a while I couldn't go. It was
No.
just the boys. I had to stay in the house. Of course, I didn't feel alone
I know
like you
you
did,
didn't.
but it sounds so similar when I hear this. I just had to stay with her because you always kept me with you. I know that the things that you shared, a lot of fears of unknown stuff, because I can remember being scared of animals, people we didn't know, and you even had me scared of Halloween at one time answering the door. Don't answer that door. But we were together, and so yeah, I can see where a lot of that is generational story, if you will. But you got to growing in and got to moving on out of the house and everything. Is there any special memories that you'd like for people to recall about you as a girl? We
Hmm.
haven't got to the adult part, but when you were a girl and they were thinking about, because you still have quite a number of those cousins alive today and
Oh, yes.
friends, I know in the hundreds.
Yeah, well, I know one thing. I'm blessed because all of my aunts had more children than my mother. My mother only had two, and that was a girl and a boy. I was the oldest, and then I had a brother. His name was Thomas. But the cousins, the aunts, had four, five, six kids, and mother didn't have but two of us.
Hmm.
So that way, I grew up around a lot of relatives, first cousins, and I never felt that much alone. But I wanted to get out of the house from sitting on the porch. Now, I could sit on the porch, and even I had a cousin named Eva. When she come over, I go over. We would go what we call peace the way. We
Oh,
couldn't go,
pieced away.
yeah, peace the way. I could go so far to her
Hmm.
home, and she'd come so far to me, but we both had to get home before it got too late in the evening. And that was the girl that I grew up with, was with Eva Mae.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I got to know Miss Eva May and her
Mm-hmm.
daughters
Yes,
and
Jean.
granddaughters over
Right,
time.
right.
It's interesting. When we would go down south those 2 weeks during the summer, I would hate it. Because it was hot,
Mm-hmm.
bugs, animals, all that I was afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a pleasure for me. But those daughters and children of your friends and family members, they would make a point to come
Mm-hmm.
out and try to get me to, socialize and make sure that I knew who they were and
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. So over time, I grew up. I felt differently. I wasn't scared of stuff anymore. And as adults, we were friends and our children knew each other. So, yeah, that's a lot, I think, when I look back at how long we have maintained relationship
Mm-hmm.
with people in our lives.
And the one especially after sitting on the porch with my grandmother and helping her shell the beans and do whatever had to be done. Then I was lonely, and a man named Monroe Redic, praise God for him, come into my
That's
life.
my dad, y'all. She talking about Monroe Redick. He found you on the step, huh?
He
Just
found me on
sitting
the
there.
step, yeah,
Oh
'cause my
yeah.
my stepdaddy had introduced him to me. He had just got out of service, and Daddy said he was somebody real nice, and he wanted me to meet him, and Daddy introduced me to him, and Daddy says, "Well, I think it's too early." He said, "Well, I don't. I love her, and I want her to be my wife." And we went to Mississippi and got married. I was underage, couldn't get married in Tennessee. So,
Really?
no, so we went to Mississippi, and he and a friend of his carried me there, and we got married. And we stayed in Tennessee about 2 years. And then he decided to come to Chicago. And this is really where I got my start as an independent woman to become a hairdresser.
Oh, you got up off the porch,
I got up off the porch.
huh? Married and come on to the big Chi town.
Yes. And the only thing, objection I think about it now, when he sent for me, he came up here and got a job. He sent for me. I was at home with my mother and my father, and he was always so attentive to help, you off and catch me by the arm and teach me like how to be a lady. And when I came to Chicago, I'll never forget this. We got off the bus. I was looking for him to reach back and take my hand like he was, and he got off the bus, went ahead of me, and I'm standing there waiting on him to come get me. And he told me, "You in Chicago now, and you got to look out for your own A."
Mm.
And he walked off, and he didn't come back and help me. I had to get off that bus. Now that's one of the things I will never forget, because he said, "Oh, well, you know what A means?
I, I, I don't know.
Your own ass." That's the way he said it.
Yeah, you
You
got to
got
look
to
out
look
for your
out for your
own.
own self.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that it grew until I wanted to become a hairdresser. And I went to school for nursing. And when I got into the school, registered and got into the school, I found out would have to handle the seriously ill and the dead. And I said, this is not me. And I changed over to hairdressing, and which to this day has been a blessing to me because it gave me the opportunity. I would go to church on Sundays, go to the lab and work with the technicians to find out what was in the product, travel national and international, telling clients how to use that, customers how to use the product. And that was one of the best things that could have happened in my life, except my one daughter and my five sons. They were a blessing to me.
I think we helped steer your career.
You did, because I had to do something.
Yeah, but I just remember we were always a part of it. You were doing hair at home when we were kids, and then you moved out to a salon. And as we got older, you got a place where we came to after school. We weren't just left at home. We came to the shop, and by this time you got to ownership, and we had jobs within the shop. We stocked, we inventoried, we uh, did the customers, sanitizing tools and implements and things. So it was a great experience. Obviously, you were being prepared for handling that. And I just think about how we were living in the projects during that time, but you made it special for those ladies when they came. You have a great artistic eye, and the makeup and all that stuff. You would send that little poor woman home with all her worries feeling beautiful.
That's for
And
sure.
she got through. And so that's a great honor to have been in the presence of seeing, even with a little bit, you can come out a lot more ahead. So thanks.
And I want to thank you for being who you are. And even though I didn't know that you and your brother sometime would have that misunderstanding, then after y'all got up, but you think when you thought you was grown enough to let me know what happened, I said, "Did that happen?" He said, "Oh, Mom, you just didn't know what was going on." But
Yeah.
when I got home from work, the house was clean,
Everything was in order.
everything
You
was in
left me in
order.
charge. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I harness the energy of ideas and action. And as a kid, that was my job. You're in charge, and me and the brothers sometimes would have some great altercations about how that was to happen and who was going to do it. But by the time you got home, everything was resolved.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that because by me being the only single woman in the project homes that we moved in, I was told that they was not going to put another single woman out there, but they would trust me. And the men that was around, they would say, "How do you do that with your children? And we don't have anything but something nice to say about them." I said, "Well, it comes from giving them some of God's word and then giving that switch if I have to use it." So they
Yeah.
both went
You
together.
handled both of those well. We went to church all my life, and it was until I guess our teen years that we could bow out because we'd have Sunday school, Bible class, program on Sundays, night service. But those are good foundations. I see them now, and some of the things I would love to see young parents get back into is creating a spiritual base for their children when they don't
Right.
have standards or morals. This is where we got them at.
Hmm.
And so that was good. And as we got older, we could pick and choose where we were going. But in the church, we learned how to do programs, how to present, how to follow orders, how to work with other people. And it's good. Every one of us, I think, has an active church life.
That's true.
Yeah, it might not be the same church anymore, but we have worked to have that for ourselves and our
Hmm.
families.
And I also can remember real well when I got really into cosmetologists as I was invited to a seminar. So I went to this seminar, and a lady by the name of Miss D was my partner. She had started working for this company, and the president of the company came by to see how was the program going, because we was teaching other hairdressers how to use the product, the benefits of the product, what is in the products in order to make it work.
Why don't you just share who that is?
Oh,
Mr. Ed
mm,
Gardner.
uh, just let me get to that point. So Mr. Gardner walked in. He
Of
said,
what company?
Soft Sheen.
Soft Sheen,
Shaw Sheen. I
yes.
was the third consultant that started working for Soft Sheen. So he asked me, he said, where's Miss D? And I said, she's having breakfast. She didn't eat breakfast, and I just came in to help her. He said, do you know what you're doing? I said, I'm here to learn. So he went to where Miss D was, and he stood around me as I was using the products to do what it's supposed to do, like make your hair straight, make it curly. And he says, well, since you're doing that, I'm going down to see Miss D. And when he came back, he said, how would you like to work for the company? And I know it was nothing but God because I did not have all that college degree. He says, you are hired. And I did a client's hair that particular day that 2 or 3 hairdressers had tried to make it, get the performance on his hair of a curl.
Hmm.
And I got the curl. And I asked the boy, would he go to the office? And he went to the office, and Mr. Gardner called me back, and he said, you got your job.
All righty.
From that job, I have been blessed to go national and international. A lot of foreign countries I would have never have gone. A lot of beautiful people would not have met if it had not been for the mercies of God and people loving me and I'm loving them in order for me to express what I know I could do.
I like, Mom, how when you get into something, the whole family is in it. She wants
Hmm.
to, you want to know all our friends and their parents and stuff, but you shared your friends and their families with us. And I can remember marketing soft sheen products in California where I was living at, and they were like, "Oh, Doris's daughter lives here," and they would share with me everything they were doing in terms of performances at wonderful venues and places because they didn't have. Going to the salon. They went
Hmm.
to venues,
That's true.
stadiums and stuff, and fill those places. And it was so exciting, those shows, and you really, really offered those opportunities to me to meet some great people. And I think about how they have come a long way,
Hmm.
and became internationally famous
That's true.
with their learning and their teaching and their sharing.
Hmm.
So, yay, Mr. Gardner.
Mr. and Mrs. Gardner.
Yes, Miss Betty Ann Gardner.
Because Betty Ann Gardner, that was his wife, but she was so beautiful. And sometimes I would pass by and I could tell that she seemed to be perturbed in a way, the expression on her face. And I would tell her, so Miss Gardner, close your door, come apart, see God, because whatever you need, God has got it. And she would come apart and she would come out. And whenever they would give these big affairs or functions or
Events,
whatever it
yeah.
was, events come up, she would put me at the table with her. And then there was some little jealousy around. Well, how come you have to be at the table with her? But my thing was, I wanted to learn. I wanted to let her know I appreciate her. And I could look the part because I do believe in my clothes.
Oh yeah,
You
she
should.
she didn't come out of the bedroom in the morning hardly. I used to think as a kid, I'm like, did she sleep in that stuff? Because her hair is done, the makeup's on, and oh, I had a hard measure to live up to because I'm a tomboy. I did not want to spend all that time getting beautiful just to come out of the bedroom. But it's great inspiration for me now.
Thank you.
I want to get back to that soft sheen life because I see you had more than just opportunity to demonstrate your skills. Mother became a regular writer, inspirational writer for the
Oh, I forgot
magazine.
that.
Yeah, for years she wrote articles. What was the name of the magazine? I can't think of it.
I
But
can't think of
anyway,
it.
Soft Sheen Products, and
Yes.
she was just an inspirational piece that appeared every month in that for years. So today I see myself as a writer and an essayist and all that. But it came from, shoot, you and probably one, I know Aunt Maddie and them, they were writers and
Hmm.
creators generations ago. So, yes, you got a lot that you've given to me and to the world, Mother.
Well, thank
You know,
you.
people still talk about, oh, that article, you know.
And right as of now, I have an adopted grandson. He works for Obama, and he's a photographer, Obama. And right now, he wants to do my story and put it in the museum in Washington,
Yeah,
D.C.
Smithsonian.
Yes,
Yeah.
Smithsonian. So he wants to do that. And not only that, but when I was working with the schools, going into the schools, teaching, and
Yeah,
in
that's part of that volunteer work you've done for
yeah,
years.
volunteer
Oh,
work, working with the schools, working in the prisons.
yeah, you've been an activist on a lot of levels,
Yes,
education, the prisons, the mentorship for those people coming out of prison, those women, and
right.
how to reclaim their lives. Whew, you working now with Push and the
Operation
young
Push.
orators on that.
Yes.
What is push?
This is Push, People United to Save Humanity, Reverend Jesse Jackson's organization. And she works with the young orators, and these are national debaters. And Mother shows up weekly to encourage them in grooming and deportment, how to conduct themselves as speakers. And she loves it, and they love her. Let's move it on down, girl. When you start having these babies, I want to go back a little bit.
Now you want to push me way back there.
Yeah. um, when did you first find out that you were gonna be a parent? How old were you?
I got pregnant.
I mean, how did you feel? Did
I
you
didn't feel good
you didn't feel
because
good?
no, because the first one was a force. I didn't know. I was on my way home, and things happened that I didn't know what to do with, and I didn't tell it until I was had to tell my mother, and I didn't know what to tell her then because I was afraid. I had been with my cousin Eva
Mm.
and was on my way home. And this fellow was older than me, and he called himself liking me, and he called me away from home. And that's when that taking place, and I didn't know what to do. But we withered through that, and I thank God this day for my stepfather, Eugene Holmes, was this daddy that I needed. And he told my mom I was living with my grandparents. He said, "This girl is going to come and stay with us." And my mom was so sweet and humble because my grandfather was, he was my stepfather,
Daddy
was
Bay.
Daddy Bay.
Yeah, Eugene Home. That was my grandpa.
He was really great. And Eleanor Holmes was my mother. Emma and Jasper Payne is my grandparents. So in the meantime, my mother had five sisters and two brothers, and they were there to help guide me along, make the space that I needed at that time.
That's a good thing you all had them babies early because I think about your aunts,
Uh-huh.
which were my great aunts, but they were young enough. They served as my aunts
That's
too.
right.
I never had any real aunts, and so these are my Aunt Ruby and ooh, all of those sisters, Aunt Carrie, Aunt Grace, Aunt Maddie,
And Benita.
Aunt Benita. Oh
Mm.
my gosh, yeah. So they were like aunts to me, and they all adored you. When I would see them, they always sending Doris something when we were coming up. And check this, we used to eat boxes of red dirt from Tennessee. This is before it was all
Yeah.
developed, and they would pack shoe boxes of dirt to bring, and oh, it would be so good. And for those who eat starch, you may know how good this dirt was. And today I can look back and say that it was delicious, but it was also mineral filled.
Hmm.
We didn't get problems and issues. We just had to get that dirt. The next person traveling between Memphis and Chicago would bring that, and they'd
Bring
bring
that dirt.
bushels of produce for Doris and her boys, and baskets of nuts and molasses. We got a lot of stuff living in Chicago from
Hmm.
those relatives who were there for our family, still living in the South and farming country.
And also at that time, during the time of my traveling, I was blessed to be able to write a magazine called um, oh, Oh, I was blessed to write in a magazine called Your Story, and that way it gave me the insight to be able to write. And some of my writing today is scattered over around.
Yeah, your writing is memorable um, and a keepsake for us. You're talking about getting your story done. Well, we've got all that stuff, and you know me, the archivist of the family. I got a lot of it in order. I always envision passing this on. I've got tubs and tubs of pictures. And I keep saying we're going to digitize those. We're going to take them and scan them all in so I can release those tubs and everybody will have a chance to see those pictures because when they come to the house, they're anxious to get in those tubs and see those pictures, you know. Oh, really? Because they're exciting. I like to think of our family as uh, pretty beautiful. Everybody likes to dress. We like pretty clothes, and even the men, they sharp shoes and iron pants and stuff. So those pictures can really depict a lot of different occasions we've had together. Mother, it's good for me to know that even though you talk about dad as your first love, that you were able to move on in life. Dad's been gone a long time, and you've had other loves in
Yes.
your life. Is there anything you want to say about anybody in particular?
Yes, I would like to say something about Bob.
Bob.
Yeah, Bob
Hmm.
was the man that came into
Your last husband.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
my last husband, Bob. After my told him no because I had five boys and one girl, and boys have an attitude that they don't like another man. So I would not marry Bob. And 25 years later, Bob came back into my life and into yours life.
Yeah, boy, we glad to have Bob.
And Bob was truly a
A good
loving,
man.
caring, sharing man. And those 2 years that we were married before he died, those was the happiest time of my life. And I must say it.
Yeah, I
Bob
saw
was
you
great.
giggling and
Oh,
girly like. Oh
yes. Oh,
man, I had
he
never
was there.
seen that
That's right.
before.
I was happy because you
Yeah.
all were grown enough to go, and I didn't want nobody to hurt his feeling because he was a good man. And I wanted him to have that pleasure, and he would get out of his bed and go take Paul to work.
Well, he
Mm.
did us all
Yes,
such
he
a
did.
job. He By this time Dad was gone, and we needed a father too. And
Uh huh.
Bob embraced us like we were his kids. He didn't have any
Sure
blood
didn't.
children, but
Mm-mm.
he took every one of us in and was kind.
Yes, he
And
was.
he could talk to you and be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
I miss you, Bob. But he was a great example of a good man, and the fact that time does pass, and
Yes,
you
it
can
does.
do the things you want in life
Mm-hmm.
at some point within that time we have allotted on this earth.
All right.
All right, mommy.
Claudette, I love you. And I
Love you
want to
too,
say
girl.
one thing. You are truly a daughter that I love, I appreciate, I thank God for you. Because right now, what I'm going through with, if it had not been for God on my side and you, I don't think I would be here. But I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have you as a daughter, and I'm so grateful for my sons because they just come to the city, call you, ask you what do mama need, and I know without a shadow of my doubt that God is in the midst of this program that we're going through right now, and I thank you. And I thank my boys, I thank my family, all the cousins, as wherever they are, I thank them because
Yeah,
they've been a great part of my life.
we've had a great life,
Yes, we
and
have.
I receive your thanks, mother.
Hmm.
It's important.
It is.
Hmm.
And they have a girl, they said, where is that Claudette? I said, well, she's somewhere like a mama. She's out there in the street trying to help somebody.
Is that what we're doing, or we just scared of being in the house alone?
Well, whatever it is paying off. Okay.
Yeah, I love it though. I just say that because, right, even today you have a hard time staying in the house.
That's right.
Got to get out. But that's love, Mom. You can't hold it in one
Mm-mm.
space, one
Mm-mm.
place. And I love you. I appreciate you. And glad we got this time for your story.
All right.
Okay.
And my story is if you can't make a person laugh, don't make them cry. That's my story. You better shut up.
Great.
Love is love. And send it out to the world because you don't know who need that smile,
Yeah.
who need that word of encouragement. And it doesn't, you don't have to know them. Just look at them and smile.
You got it. A
Yeah.
little hug for him.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you, Miss Doris.
Oh,
Okay, we're rolling.
my story is love regardless of what seemed to be or it doesn't seem to be. Love. Love yourself. If you love yourself, God will just send the other portion that you need for someone else to love you. I love you. That's to the world.
Thank you.